I haven't really had a lot of spare cash in the last few weeks to buy any bits and pieces for the bike, so I haven't really been doing a lot on it, but I thought we'd look at a few fasteners for it. So on these, one of the major thread forms is Whitworth. That came about through Sir Joseph Whitworth in the early 1840s and became the first nationalised thread system. It's used quite extensively on these bikes. Now the earlier A10s use a stud threaded at each end rather than a bolt. Can make it a little bit awkward to get them done up evenly, especially if the threads aren't perfect. Slightly later A10, they then went to a bolt, normally using a flat and spring washer or sometimes a anti-vibration star washer. What I've decided to use is none of those, and I'm going to use what's called an AN bolt. Now the AN bolts, you purchase them basically based on the length of the shank, and we'll get to that in a minute. So for a given diameter, the length of the thread is always exactly the same, and I'll be using these in conjunction with a flat washer and a nylock. Now you can get nylocks for the Whitworths, a little bit harder to get a hold of, and I probably could have done it that way if I'd really wanted. I've already fitted some of these bolts in the rear shock absorber mountings and the gearbox. Now the reason I'm using these, as you'll see from these two bolts, the silvery one is the Whitworth and the goldy coloured one is the AN. And if you look at where the shank ends, the shank on the AN bolt ends just outside the area of the gearbox plates, whereas the Whitworth one ends within them. From an engineering point of view, it's not a great idea having anything bearing on the threaded portion. It is the weakest part of them. In saying that, these bikes go for, or have gone for decades with not giving any problems at all, but it's just something due to perhaps motorsport I'm slightly more fussy about. It's something that actually once cost me a very good result in a race, and I'd rather do it this way. So the AN bolts are equivalent to something like a grade 5. The Whitworth bolts, I have no idea what they are. They have no head markings, which means I suspect they're probably certainly not anything even better. And you can see on the heads of some of them, possibly, looks like someone's taken a grinder to them, possibly to try and make them look a bit cleaner. Most bolts will have a marking on them, which if you have a table to reference, you can tell what grade, what tensile strength, etc. they are. So I'll be replacing all the bolts that I can across the bike with these. The only drawback to using them, I'll probably have to carry an extra couple of spanners and a couple of sockets, and that will be about it.